Wheels turning on week 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, last week was just insane.
It was a ton of fun. I was at the Packer game, so I missed a lot of it.
Oh, nice. How about Damian Lillard to your Bucks, man?
I got my Bucks hat on today. I'm ready.
Nice. Some people are saying they'd still rather have Drew, but I don't know.
Some people say a lot of things.
I'll take Drew in Philly.
Yeah, why not?
It'll just prove that the process never worked. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Good morning. 9 a.m. here on the East Coast. 8 a.m. for Matt, but this guy's up at 4 a.m. eating tuna fish anyway, so I think we're good to go. We got happy to have you guys with us as always, breaking down a fun showdown slate. Some definite injuries to some of these. I'm telling you guys right now, you may not pay close attention to defensive injuries or offensive line injuries. Most games, maybe on main slates when you've got a lot to look at. This one, I would certainly suggest altering your course a little bit and paying attention to some of that stuff, because a lot of injuries in this game, a lot of questionable players, big name questionable players that could make a huge impact. And I'm not even talking about on the offensive side with Aaron Jones and Christian Watson, who are expected to play, but short week, we'll see. It's a fun one, but it's a lot of nuance, a lot of stuff to break down. So hit that thumbs up as you walk in the door. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. Show us why the fuck does this thing keep going out? It's been so good to me, and now every time it just disappears and goes straight to kitchen nightmare. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below if you're listening or watching after the fact. And don't forget, guys, all of our shows go straight to podcast after this. Apple Podcast, Spotify, whatever it is. And lucky you, podcast exclusive content. The single entry 3 Max show. Come on. We got a strategy show for that. Podcast exclusive, extended version of the strategy show goes onto our podcast platforms every Tuesday, early afternoon. Afternoon slate breakdown with Greg Ehrenberg and myself every Friday afternoon. Just set a reminder for Sunday after the main slate starts. Go in there. They're less than 30 minutes. Knock them out. Subscribe to the pod. Show us some love and also get some content that you're not going to find here. But we got football to talk about today, not Sunday. Today, Eric and I will be on for matchup show coming up at 11, but I'm Dave Loughran at Lafayette_D, joined by Matt Gajewski at Matt_Gajewski. Lions -1.5, 45.5 point total at Lambeau Field against the Packers. How we feeling, man?
I'm feeling great. I'm really excited for this game. Love when we have injury news that we get to sift through. And to your point, it's not all Aaron Jones, all Christian Watson. Make sure, I always advocate for watching live before lock because you get the latest news on these situations. But on the offensive lines in particular, we have the Packers really banged up. No Bakhtiari, no Elgin Jenkins. We'll see if Zach Tom, a backup tackle, plays. That could leave them down to a third stringer. And then on the Lions side, I think this is really where you need to watch. Decker and Jonah Jackson, questionable, limited practices all week, but that could definitely influence things if they're out. Vitae is already out for the Lions too.
Do you think Jair Alexander plays?
He got in 2 limited practices, so I think so. But it's a weird one for him. He's got a back injury. Those flare up sometimes. I think he could be, all right, let's see it in warmups. If it doesn't go well, maybe he doesn't play. Again, another huge one for live before lock.
It's also weird because he was out Sunday, and now you've got this real short turnaround.
Yeah.
We'll see. But you're talking about a Lions defense that racked up 7 sacks last game as well, right? So if you're talking about a Packers line that's dealing with, catastrophic amount of injuries, like you said to me before the show, Zach Tom, not particularly good. He's a backup. But if you're going to your third stringer and now you're down, 3/5 of the offensive line plus one of the back, that could be troublesome. The Lions have a couple guys that can get to the quarterback for sure. And Jordan Love, he's mobile enough for sure. I'll tell you what, I'm almost tempted to take the rushing yards over on Jordan Love today, because this may just be a situation where he's got to do a heck of a lot of running, whether he wants to or not.
Yeah, that's a good thought. I hadn't looked at that myself yet. Definitely will during the show. But your point on this pass rush, good luck stopping Aiden Hutchinson
He's a
with these.
monster.
He's everything that he was billed to be coming out of Michigan, man. He is a stud.
And by the way, we saw that last year too. Like matter of fact, didn't he pick off Rodgers in the end zone twice in the same game? Wasn't it Aiden Hutchinson that picked off Rodgers in the end zone twice in the same game?
I'm embarrassed. I do not recall.
Ah, okay. Maybe I'm just far off.
Probably not. It's hard to remember all that stuff.
Maybe it wasn't him. For some reason, I thought it was because he did, but I can't remember if he did it twice. I know one of them was 4th and goal. Well, we got some smart people with better memories than myself in chat. They could remind me. But anyway, you ready to talk this game? It's a fun one.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's dive into it. So first things first, we'll start with the Lions, then we'll go with the Packers. We'll build a lineup here as well. We'll try and break down. We try and leave no stone unturned here on the Showdown Strategy Show. Get into the weeds. You don't have the luxury of not mentioning some of these just no-name guys. You don't have that luxury. On a main site, you don't have to talk about a lot of them. On this one, you do. Like nobody would have been talking about Olamide Zaccheaus, even on a 2-game, with that 2-game Monday. No one would have been discussing that at all if this were a main slate. Why would, what's the point? You're going to see a whole lot of that. So we'll get into the weeds here. We'll kick it off with the Lions on the road. So first off, do you think Montgomery is going to play? Because he has gotten in a couple limited practices.
I don't think he's going to. There were some reports saying he's unlikely. Underdog tweeted about an hour ago, not expected to play. These things change quickly, so watch and see. But right now, I'm looking at this as if it's going to be mostly Jahmyr Gibbs, like it was last week.
So if that is the case, then Jahmyr Gibbs, oddly enough, only ran 17 routes last game on a whole lot of dropbacks. I don't get that targeted. Listen, I know that they kind of handled Atlanta's 20-6 win. Atlanta couldn't get anything going. Surprise, surprise, right? Like Arthur Smith folds under pressure when they have even the smallest deficit there. And they ran 44 yards on 20 carries. When that ground game's not working, things go south quickly. Ritter got sacked 7 times. So they didn't need a ton out of Gibbs there. But the fact that Craig Reynolds ran 9 routes to Gibbs 17, Gibbs was heavily featured in the run game, which was encouraging. But you really would have thought that they'd feature him a little bit more as a pass catcher, regardless of the score.
Yeah, it's almost like they just put him in the David Montgomery role. David Montgomery's out. We need someone to do David Montgomery's job. We're not going to change the offense at all. At some point, people need to start asking questions about these Lions decision makers. You have an elite back in DeAndre Swift and you don't like him for whatever reason. You trade him for nothing. Now he's on Philadelphia. Then you draft the exact same player in the first round, only to park him behind David Montgomery until there's an injury. And then instead of using him to his true skill set, you put him exactly in the David Montgomery role. Like there's real questions here. And ultimately, I don't think it matters a ton for DFS because whether he plays the Montgomery role or his own, he has good opportunity here. And I would like to think if they get down, they still prefer him as the pass catcher over Reynolds. You mentioned the weird stuff that happened last week. I don't know, but I don't have a lot of faith in Detroit putting their players in the best position that they possibly can at this point.
I don't disagree. So are you saying, if I'm hearing you right, that it would have been wiser to draft Jalen Carter and keep DeAndre Swift?
Don't even get me started on Jalen Carter there. I'm sure you've seen the videos. My Chicago Bears trading back a pick, letting Philadelphia steal Jalen Carter, and then celebrating it in their war room. Like, that makes me sick.
You know what's funny, though? If you go on Twitter, you have anybody that isn't an Eagles fan. And look, obviously in this respect, I'm biased, but like people that aren't Eagles fans going, when someone says, oh yeah, this guy's amazing, they're like, yeah, but he's a criminal. I guarantee you but that's why fans are so petty. Anybody, if they were a fan of that team and he got drafted to that team and was producing, they would not for a single second be worried about something like that. It's the same thing with all the frauds when it comes to fantasy football that go, a player does something bad and we all agree that it's bad. And then somebody asks them what they're supposed to do with them and they shame them publicly. Like, you scumbag. How could you ask me this question? This is a time for mourning. This is a time for white knight riding into, like, it's so silly. And then the funniest part about all that, Matt, is that like 6 months later, they're like, yeah, I'm drafting this guy probably 7th or 8th round. It's ridiculous, man. I can't stand that crap. But you know what I'm talking about, right? You see it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, with Jalen Carter in particular, people say he has character concerns. The kid's 21. He drove his car fast. I mean, like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean,
like, you let him fall to, where did he go? Was that pick 9 or 11 he went?
9.
9. You let a guy almost fall out of the top 10 who's arguably the best player in the entire class, a generational. I mean, he has more pressures right now than Aaron Donald. Small sample, yes, but I mean, anytime you're mentioned in the same sentence as Aaron Donald, this is ridiculous. And the Bears take what probably ends up being a backup tackle in Darnell Wright. Come on.
He probably shouldn't have fled the scene. I'll give him that. But I've said a million times, for the stuff that I didn't get caught for, like the stuff that I won't get into it on this show. I shouldn't. I'm sure there's a statute of limitations on most of these things. But like the stuff that I was not caught for when I was younger, granted, I wasn't, a top tier athlete, but when you're young, you do really dumb stuff. And
he drove his car fast. Yeah.
He just got caught.
The fast car. That's why he bought it.
Yeah. Right. But I digress. Jahmyr Gibbs at his price point is kind of what I wanted to talk to you about. If we assume that David Montgomery doesn't play, 9,600 here. You know what? Here's where I'm at on this. I know he wasn't used heavily as a pass catcher last game. I get that. Kind of stinks, but they were up 20-6, low scoring win. Not really much resistance from that Atlanta offense to force them to make any, decisions in that respect. Assuming Montgomery's out, I'm going to have a ton of Jahmyr Gibbs here. I'm still not buying into this Green Bay run defense. That's what I can tell you. I know that last week they did a good job of limiting a collection of cast-offs from New Orleans. I know Kendra Miller could be good, but it was his first game ever returning from a prolonged injury. If Jahmyr Gibbs is in there, and this is a good run blocking line, assuming they're mostly healthy for the Lions, I will go right back to as much Gibbs as I can get.
I like Gibbs too. There is one problem, and it's more just the slate in general. Exact opposite of Monday. This is priced as tight as it possibly could. Horribly tight pricing. And I actually kind of like it because then, I mean, you can only play 3 studs. Unless you're playing Brock Wright or something, you cannot get 4. And you might not even be able to captain one. So right away, I'm thinking about this, and I'm going to fall back on our tools and really play the game script game here. Try to correlate these players. Mainly that means when I'm playing Gibbs, I want to be using Green Bay pass catchers, maybe stacks of Jordan Love with whomever the receiver may be, Wicks or Reed, whatever, Musgrave, because it's so tight pricing. I think those things are really going to matter here today. And I do like Gibbs. I'm a little worried about the coaching staff, but at the end of the day, when they're trailing, he should be the main pass catcher. When they're leading, they show they're going to put him in the David Montgomery role. So I like Gibbs as well.
You are right, though. So with that in mind, okay, if you're talking about, Will McNeil said, Laffy gets so triggered by virtue signaling and then said, "What's up, bro?" No, I don't get triggered. I'm good at not allowing things to affect my personal life. Although during COVID, I may have slipped into some holes, admittedly. But no, I just find the hypocrisy astounding. That's all. And you guys know I'm right about that. But anyway, if that is the case, and it's a super tough spot to where you go, all right, St. Brown's expensive. Aaron Jones is an absolute beast, and he's expected back. We'll just assume for now that he's not going to be limited, but I don't know. We've seen LaFleur do some stuff where Aaron Jones plays, but doesn't play in full capacity. We've seen that a lot, Matt, as a matter of fact. So I don't think we can just overlook it. Goff is expensive. Jordan Love's up there. Gibbs is up there. Hell, Romeo Doubs is 8,800 in the flex. That is wild. Christian Watson, 82. Laporta, 8K. Damn, you're right, man. This is where do we make concessions here? Where do we go? You know what? Maybe we just shouldn't get to those, or maybe I'll get to less of those. Like, how do you prioritize these guys 8K and up? Because right now there's 8 of them. Yeah, there's 8 players at 8K and up.
Yeah, it's super hard. I think the easiest place not to skip ahead is probably with Green Bay. Watson on a snap count, you'd think that likely affects the other expensive Green Bay pass catchers, receivers specifically. I don't think it's really going to affect Luke Musgrave much, but Dobbs and Reed and Wicks are all probably a little too expensive there. Logically, I think that's the easiest place to make a concession just because it's uncertain, but that also leads to opportunity for tournaments. So it's not like I'll be Xing out the Packers pass catchers like that. But you just have more predictability on the Lions side. You know exactly what you're getting with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I can't even remember how many games straight it is with 9 targets for Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's playing through an injury. It's a toe turf thing. They've got a plate in his shoe. Somewhat concerning, but man, the guy's a beast playing through it regardless. I think with a fair amount of certainty can guess at Gibbs' role. And regardless if the role shifts a little bit, I don't think he's really going to come out of the game. And then Jared Goff, you know exactly what you're getting there. So I almost want to say I feel a little better about the Detroit side. You just have a lot more security there. What do you think?
Yeah, well, the pass catchers for Green Bay, it's kind of a mess. Before Christian Watson returned, if you were to just look at the target share on this team, Jaden Reed 21%, Romeo Dobbs 21%, Luke Musgrave 16%, Aaron Jones before the injury 15%, Wicks 13%. There's no real concentration of targets there at all, right? I mean, at all. And now that's before you even had Christian Watson. We don't know if he's going to be playing in a limited capacity today. Aaron Jones is arguably their best pass catcher on the team. And he's missed 2+ games. Sean V said that Lions run D is legit. You can't play any running backs for Green Bay. I disagree. I want nothing to do with AJ Dillon because I've reached the point, and granted it's a showdown slate. I get that. He could fall into the end zone. But I've kind of reached the point where I'm willing to admit that he's not good at all. He's just kind of like a plodding running back who in his rookie season that was effective, and now he can't pick up 3 yards per carry. But Aaron Jones is so good and so dynamic in every phase of the game. I'm not really sure how I could look at this and go, yeah, outside of, hey, maybe he's not fully healthy. That's one thing, but he's so good, Matt. He had what, 2 40+ yard receptions in week 1. I'm always willing to play Aaron Jones.
I love Aaron Jones. I was thinking about this today that he's probably going to be a guy come in decently overweight, if not significantly overweight, especially if people think he's not going to play much. And we just won't know that information more than likely. But in the event where he gets every single snap, his usage is so dynamic. You mentioned the matchup being poor. I'm not sure it even matters with his pass catching ability. They're awesome at creating ways to get him the ball in space and utilize the skill set he has. And I think there's probably a good chance that he's pretty close to full health here. I mean, they've been very cautious. He was practicing last week. They've been very cautious with him. And I think that's largely just because we need this guy at full strength. We can't have him injured. David Montgomery is a severe liability when he's playing. Like, David Montgomery should be inactive. Patrick Taylor and Emmanuel Wilson are better than David Montgomery. He might be one of the worst second-round picks of all time. And that's in the same draft where they also spent the 3rd on Josiah DeGuara. So, I mean, like, egregiously bad process from the Packers. He stinks. And he's a liability out there. Play the undrafted free agent Emmanuel Wilson. At least he's explosive.
You would rather do that? I mean, I guess
yes. David Montgomery should be cut. Or excuse me, AJ Dillon should be cut. Yes.
I guess at this point you're right. What what is there to lose?
I don't know what his contract's like. Maybe guaranteed money, but he's
not even by cutting him. I meant, what is there to lose by giving Wilson more opportunities and just sitting Dillon on the bench? There's nothing to lose.
You, as a decision maker in your front office, you look like a moron.
I guess that's
so. I mean, like, there's some sunk cost here with Packers GM and coaching staff, we spent a second round on this guy. Why is he so bad? We spent a third round on Josiah DeGuara. Why is he so bad? Real questions, man. Like, they've drafted a lot of horrible players.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, they really have. Aaron Jones, it's not even like, hey, is Aaron Jones a decent amount better than Dylan and should he get most of the work? In a perfect world, Aaron Jones should get all of the work outside of being spelled on like 3 touches a game.
Yep, and when they do spell him, it should be Patrick Taylor and Emmanuel Wilson. But I'll bet on that. With A.J. Dillon being so bad and Aaron Jones being so good, the Packers have been lucky this year. Like, they were lucky to win that Saints game. They don't have margin for error here. This is a game that's almost a pick 'em. They need Aaron Jones to play, especially with Christian Watson on the snap count. You and I were talking about Jordan Love early before the show. For as good as he's been in spots, the efficiency metrics don't look good. He needs weapons on the field, and Aaron Jones is the best one they have.
Yep, without question. And he can break him loose at any point. That's what I love about this guy, especially on a slate like this. Even if you were to get it wrong and he's not out there as much as he normally is, Aaron Jones can still rip off some big plays as well. I mean, that's not what you're hoping for, Matt, obviously. Like, you're not hoping for that at all. You're hoping that he comes out there, plays his normal allotment of snaps. But you know what else would be crazy that we haven't really talked about yet? I mean, we've kind of talked about it, but not really. What if, after what we've seen from A.J. Dillon over the last 2 weeks with Aaron Jones out, what if Aaron Jones just comes back and gets a legitimate lion's share of touches?
I think that's also in the range of outcomes, and honestly, just as likely as him being limited, because they've treated him quite cautiously so far. I thought he was going to play last week, and then he didn't. So hopefully he's as near to full health as he possibly can be here. I mean, A.J. Dillon already saw his snaps cut last week, and they kind of still needed to use him, but only 41 snaps. Patrick Taylor had 31. This was awfully close to a 50-50 committee for a guy who's an undrafted free agent battling a second rounder. I think at least in the range of outcomes, Aaron Jones handles a massive workload.
I think so too. AJ Dillon, let's see.
Or AJ Dillon.
I know. 2.3 yards after contact per attempt. 3 missed tackles forced on like 50 carries or whatever he has. 40, 39. It's not good. It's not good at all. Anyway, if Montgomery does play, are you, now that these prices like this, that's the one issue. What if Montgomery does play and you've got Gibbs price through the moon? Because I think Gibbs price is perfectly fair. I think it's a fine price if Montgomery's out. But if Montgomery plays, you know that if they get to the goal line, the shot of him getting that goal line work is going to be significant. We saw it last year with Jamal Williams, with DeAndre Swift getting a lot of in between the 20 stuff and Williams getting all of that goal line work. How do you approach the running back room here if Montgomery plays? I want to make sure we cover everything.
Absolutely. I'll be playing multiple lineups. I'm sure I'll sprinkle them both, but my main approach would be to ignore them. Very tight price slate. You have guys that have bankable opportunity. No reason to really mess around with these guys. From a median projection standpoint, I'm guessing they would both come in with pretty severe negative leverage in our tools. And I mean, Amon-Ra's right there. He's going to have at least 9 targets. Goff's right there. You have the Packers on the other side at similar price points. When it's so tight in pricing, doesn't make a lot of sense to me to play him in that situation.
And by the way, guys, I saw it in chat. We're aware that the Montgomery's not expected to play, but when we did this show last Monday, Amari Cooper wasn't expected to play either, and he did. So, try and cover everything here. Also, we should be crushing 100 likes pretty shortly. Almost 400 people hanging out with us. It's not even 9:30 yet. Appreciate you guys for supporting this channel, coming in, checking out some free content early on a Thursday. We'll have Live Before Lock as well, 7:15 to 8:15 today, Neil Orfield and myself, so make sure you're there for that. And still baseball content. You got Josh Engelman coming up for the strategy show in about 33 minutes right here on the channel, so don't go anywhere. Okay, pass catchers for Detroit. We'll be able to speed through some of this stuff because we already talked a lot about the backfield for Green Bay. we're moving around a little bit out of order, but that's all right. So how about the fact this year, Matt, that between Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta, that's my guy. That guy's good. Like, he's legitimately good. I love him. I think he's going to be the next fantasy tight end that is up there in the same. Is that crazy of me? Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Like, I really think he's going to be one of the next elite fantasy tight ends out there.
He's breaking records, rookie records among tight ends, which is, I mean, it's incredibly impressive. It's a position that generally comes along slowly. He comes from Iowa. They put out nothing but good tight ends and don't use them well in college. My priors are pretty bad just from having watched him in that offense, but honestly, I think that's more of a reflection of the Iowa offense than anything else. Laporta was a hyper athlete coming out. He's a good blocker. Like, he doesn't have to come off the field. So he doesn't have some of the same worries as a guy like Kyle Pitts or anything like that. Anytime it's a run play and they check to a pass, Laporta is still there. I mean, there's a ton of positives for him. And Goff has already developed a rapport with him early on. 28 targets for Amon-Ra St. Brown, 22 for Laporta. The next closest player is at 13.
That's exactly what I was, before I sidetracked myself. No, but what I was going to say is you've got Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta combining for over 52% of the targets in this offense through 3 weeks. Marvin Jones he's out there, but he hasn't been targeted in back-to-back games, right? Josh Reynolds has a 20% target share in 2 games, or on the season. I don't know, man. Like, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Laporta, and we'll talk about whether or not Jair Alexander plays, but these guys are rapidly becoming Jared Goff's favorite. We already knew Amon-Ra St. Brown was, but I think it's pretty fair to say that Sam Laporta, it's not 1A and it's not 1 and 1A. I'm not willing to go there quite yet, right? But Laporta, 5, 6, 11 targets in 3 games. Also, if you're a rookie and you have a quarterback throwing you the ball, I think he's probably pretty happy that you're catching almost everything that he throws to you.
I mean, he's awesome in that regard. And from there, I mean, like, what are you going to go down and pay $6,200 for Reynolds? I guess you maybe could. $5,200 for Khalif Raymond. Like, the price on these wide receiver 2 and 3s is so high. I would rather just find the salary to get the locked in target share for Laporta. And if that means I have to play a kicker or something like that, so be it. But I want the security of Laporta over the volatility of a Khalif Raymond or something like that, unless we're talking Millie Maker stuff here. But one lineup, small field, give me Laporta over these ancillary pass catchers.
I want to look at something for a second. I want to see, just pulling this up, on the season, how many deep attempts. Wow, Jordan Love is 4th in deep attempts this year.
That guy is wild. They've been pushing the ball downfield. It's awesome.
For sure. And that's helpful on a slate like this if you can get one of them. Let's see. The deep attempts for Detroit. I'm bringing this up because I would like to see how many of these guys can at least give us an opportunity, even if their target share is minimal. Believe it or not, Amon-Ra St. Brown leads the team with 5 targets, 20 plus yards downfield. That's okay. Here's what I thought. Raymond with 4 of them as well. So that's encouraging. But like you said, he should probably be 3,300 here and not 5K plus. That's the tough part. Laporta has 1. That was that 45-yard touchdown we saw last week. Josh Reynolds has 2. He has yet to catch any of them. So there are some shots here. Marvin Jones has none. I mean, he's just been an absolute zero. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta are both very good plays this week. But how are you approaching the Raymonds, the Reynolds, the Marvin Joneses, the Brock Wrights, and those type of guys in this passing offense?
Yeah, luckily it's not Thanksgiving, so we don't need to worry about Marvin Jones. He'll save his 3 touchdowns for that day, as
and
he
just
always does.
crush our holiday. Yeah,
I've never lost so much money on a single day, and unfortunately, it was a holiday when Marvin Jones had those 3 touchdowns. Anyway, I'm just going to play more kickers and defenses over these tertiary options here. Like, you don't even have him on the field the whole time. Last week, Marvin Jones, 29 out of 70 snaps. You had Khalif Raymond at 25 out of 70 snaps. I think he's a little more valuable because of the strikes he gets from Goff. But still, I mean, 5,200 for this guy, he's more expensive than kickers and defenses. I don't think I saw in chat, people were thinking this might be a low-scoring game. I kind of tend to agree here, which increases the value of what kickers and defenses do on the field anyway. If I am punting, Brock Wright did play 29 snaps out of 70. That was the exact same amount as Marvin Jones. He's 800. The problem is he spent 23 of those snaps blocking. So we're really going to have to get lucky with Brock Wright down there. But I also think you're going to have to get lucky with Marvin Jones and Khalif Raymond. And instead of spending 5,200 and 3K, whatever Marvin Jones is, you at least are saving money with Brock Wright. So I'll at least throw some darts there. Last thing I'll mention is Antoine Green played 14 snaps. He also had 6 routes. It wasn't exactly a competitive game, so I'm worried about that dropping. But I mean, he's not very different than Brock Wright either. So maybe in the biggest of tournaments, Millie Makers, you could throw a complete random dart on Green. But we're extremely thin already here.
Let me say, yeah, I'm with. How would you rank them? I want to look something up. By the way, I just saw that DM you showed me on that AJ Dillon run. Not great. How would you rank them here? I want to look something up.
While just pass catchers?
Yes.
Oh, Mike just put in our chat that Montgomery's playing.
That's exactly what I'm looking up. I'm trying to see what I mean, guys. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's why I try and cover all angles on this show. All right.
Yeah, I guess to rank them, Amon-Ra, Sam Laporta, clearly number 1 and 2, not even close. And then I would rather play kickers and defenses over Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond and these guys, but I guess I would go Reynolds 2, Khalif Raymond 3. Or I might just X out Marvin Jones and then get buried when he scores 3 again.
All right, so Tom Pelissero said David Montgomery and Taylor Decker. So Taylor Decker's, they're both playing. Emmanuel Mosley is out.
He hasn't played all year, right?
Right.
Maybe.
So I don't think so, right? Hasn't? Yeah.
I don't think he has.
Okay. Well, that sucks.
Kind of makes things a little easier, I think. To me, David Montgomery becomes an interesting value play because we don't have any value. At 6,800, he's going to open things a little bit. And Gibbs, I'm going to come in severely underweight on because he's the same price point or at least he's close in price point to Jordan Love, to Aaron Jones, to Goff, to Amon-Ra. And it's really hard to play them all. The pricing is so tight. Outside of just big tournaments and sprinkling in, 150 sets, I don't anticipate playing much Gibbs now.
Yeah. Montgomery at that price kind of just makes more sense. Now, it sucks, though, because you have Montgomery, and assuming Jones is playing, you have 2 guys who we have no idea what their workload looks like and how healthy they are. But the fact that they would play on a Thursday night leads you to at least believe that they should be somewhat okay.
Yeah, I mean, the Thursday night stuff doesn't really make sense to me unless someone got hurt on Sunday's game. If anything, like, to me, it's like, why wouldn't you play a guy who's close to returning from injury on Thursday? Because the next game, then you have 10 days to rest instead of 7. Mm-hmm. So it's like, unless they got hurt on Sunday itself, like, the short week doesn't really matter to that guy. He's been sitting out anyway.
Exactly. And another thing to consider too, I wanted to see what the week 5 bye weeks were. Like the Chargers do. You may week 5, you might not see Eckler. But another thing with David Montgomery, if you remember, they were already saying before last week, before week 3, Dan Campbell wasn't willing to rule Montgomery out super early. He was considering him day to day, not week to week. So I'm not shocked that he's back. Anyway,
either.
Anybody else for Detroit that we haven't hit on?
Kickers and defenses. Mentioned it briefly. I'm going to be playing them both. You were talking about Jordan Love before the show. So you have some great efficiency stats. I think that's a good conversation to have along with Detroit's defense. It's not just the offensive line for Green Bay that I'm worried about and the mismatch that Detroit's defense will be benefiting from up front with their pass rush. But Love has also been shaky at times. And I think that's another reason you could maybe see some turnovers on the Detroit side of the ball going in their favor. It also comes down to price. I mean, am I going to play Khalif Raymond or am I going to play kickers and defenses? I think on this particular slate, that's where I'm leaning.
Okay. I agree. And with that banged up Green Bay offensive line too, I would not be shocked though to see some opportunities for defensive scores in a game like this. All right. But last thing, I don't really need to spend much time on this, but as far as Jared Goff goes, do you like him or do you like Jordan Love more? Or is this just a spot where you go, you know what, I'll probably do everything I can just to get a lot of these guys? Because I'm looking at our top showdown and single game plays tool right now. You know, this is something we lean on every single slate. Both of them have around the 15% top play probability. So top overall play on a showdown slate. You guys can see why that's an important piece of information we look at. Both of them are getting essentially the same ownership at utility, same ownership at captain, basically the same leverage score, which is slight positive leverage. In our top showdown and single game plays tool, these guys look almost identical today.
Yeah, I'm going to get more Goff now that we have the Montgomery Gibbs news, but it's going to be targeted to stacking. Again, very tight. Want to be very careful how I use these guys. I think straight up, if you force me to pick one, I would still take Jordan Love because of the rushing, but I anticipate playing a lot of the signal callers on both sides.
Jordan Love's weird tonight, and because on one hand, that pressure could be a problem against that banged up line. But on the other hand, what if he just has to run a ton in this game?
Yeah, he already is running a fair amount, and he's a good athlete. We just don't have a big sample on him doing it yet. And again, to your point, I don't think it's Lamar Jackson's role. I think it's more functional mobility. But if anything else, pressure for a young quarterback sometimes leads to sacks. Sometimes it leads to a lot of scrambles, which could work in his favor.
Talk about the Packers. Before we do, guys, I mentioned yesterday that my DMs were open on Twitter, Matt, and I didn't know that because they've always been open. I didn't know that ever since all these switches happened that it auto toggled on that you could only accept DMs from people that were verified. So I told everybody I turned that off. Let me tell you, I got flooded yesterday once I turned that off. Yeah, I turned that off, which, by the way, don't mind. I think I answered every single one of them. I'm happy to. The reason I bring that up, though, is not to show myself in a positive light, although it would make naturally that is the conclusion that you should be led to. But because a lot of questions were, Laffy, when I sign up for Owner's Box using the link, because they're trying to take advantage of the free week of all of our tools, literally every single one of our tools for NFL, you get for free for the entirety of the week. There's no add-ons that you need to get after that. We restructured the way that our product works, the subscriptions. So now everything is in one single package. Contest generator, lineup simulator, post-contest simulator, ownership, player projections, top stacks tool, boom bust tool, all of our showdown simulation tools, everything. Premium Discord, lineup generator, you name it, we've got it all free for the first week when you sign up at Owner's Box. But the biggest question I was getting is, Laffy, I used the link in the description or the chat, whichever one. They used it from the show on the strategy show. I don't know what the promo code is. You don't need a promo code if you use the link, right? We'll email you. We'll hit you up. If you do it today, you'll have access to all of our tools, which, by the way, we have Owner's Box for the lineup simulator, for ownership, for projections, all of that. Obviously, FanDuel and DraftKings too. But if you do it today, we'll email you. We'll get back to you and get you set up with that free week of everything that we have for NFL, which means you're getting Thursday night football. You're getting Sunday main slate, Sunday afternoon slate, Sunday showdown slate, Monday night football, and might I add, Sunday showdown in the morning for that Falcons-Jags London game. So yeah, guys, Owner's Box has $175,000 prize pool in their top prize or in their flagship contest this week, $35,000 up top. The overlay there has been significant. That's one way to put it. Might be putting it lightly. Like 20 to 30% overlay every single week we've seen over there. Super flex contests, which are awesome for main slate, for like regular slates, meaning you can super flex. You can flex in a quarterback in the super flex spot, go with some wild game stacks. It's an unsolved format so far. Great showdown slates as well. We've seen some overlay hitting those. And when you sign up, first match deposit bonus up to $500. So if you go to yourself, hey, you know what? Maybe I've been struggling on FanDuel or DraftKings. FanDuel and DraftKings don't have the overlay that Owner's Box does. Maybe I'm just going to go, instead of putting 30 lineups or whatever, even 20 lineups into the Millie Maker, which is a lottery ticket and is going to fill. Maybe I'll do the same thing with the $15 entry one for $35K up top, where you're going to get 20, 25, 30% overlay. And I'm getting a deposit bonus up to $500. Now, the minimum deposit's only $10 if you want the free week. But if you have the means to do so, max out that bonus. I can tell you for sure that I did the moment we got it, because why not? DraftKings and FanDuel weren't offering me that. Anyway, all of our stuff free for the week. Perfect time. Every slate you're going to get in on throughout the entirety of the week. And you'll get next Thursday as well. Link in the description and chat for Owner's Box. If you want all of our tools and a great deposit bonus, a lot of overlay and super flex contests over there. All right. So Matt, Packers, we talked about a bunch about Jordan Love here. He hasn't, lowest adjusted completion rating in this, take it for what it's worth, in the league, ahead of only Zach Wilson. Shocked me that I don't care about the Robert Saleh platitudes. If Zach Wilson has another disgustingly bad game, which is very likely at this point, how do you start him again next week?
You probably don't. I mean, there's no good situations for the Jets right now.
None.
You're starting Simeon or Zach Wilson. Honestly, you should probably be considering running the triple option with Breece Hall or something. The way their picks are tied up with Green Bay because of the Aaron Rodgers trade, they don't really have the capital to make a play on another guy who might be available. Say Minnesota goes 0-4 or something and Kirk Cousins becomes available. They don't really have the capital to be swinging around picks and stuff to get a guy like that. So, I mean, their season's just kind of lost. Honestly, I know the fan base would hate it. Maybe you just trot out Zach Wilson, try to get Caleb Williams or something, because your team's not live to win anything. Best case scenario, you fall back on your defense and you win 8 games, you get smoked in the playoffs, right, and you get a worse pick. I mean, it's a lose-lose. I don't see how they could possibly get away with this unless they swap picks severely in the future and try to get a guy like Kyler Murray or something. But I mean, lost season for New York. What do you want them to do?
Yeah, I know. Could you trade for Kirk Cousins?
With what picks?
Yeah, it doesn't look great.
You can't trade your first or your second because Aaron Rodgers is not going to play 70% of the snaps, but it's tied up in these conditions. They can't even do it.
Maybe just airdrop Minnesota pallets of cash. I
don't know, man. They would have to get funky with whatever trade they do.
You can't do that. I'm joking, but yeah, it's a bad situation. But back to this game with the Packers. Hell, Jordan Love is, despite the fact that any advanced metric would tell you he's not playing that well, he's been very consistent from a fantasy standpoint, right? 20 plus fantasy points in 3 straight games. The rushing upside hasn't been electric, but he did run one in last game, 9 for 39 and a score on the ground. There's nothing stupendous about this guy, but obviously he's perfectly good play. The question now becomes, and I think, correct me if you think I'm wrong here, I think there are 1,000 different ways based on the pricing. I think there's 1,000 different ways that you could play the captain spot this week or tonight.
I agree. And that's kind of what's nice about tight pricing. But right away, I think it kind of goes 2 ways with Love. You don't have the best efficiency metrics. He's made big throws when he has to, but he also has played the majority of the season without Watson or Aaron Jones. I mean, they're playing 5th-round rookie Dontavian Wicks out there every single snap. Jaden Reed's a rookie. Romeo Doubs is a former 5th-round rookie. You have Luke Musgrave playing every snap, rookie. It's the youngest pass-catching core in the NFL, very inexperienced, and not only young, but a lot of these guys are just probably practice squad caliber players. As much as I love Wicks, he's still a 5th-round rookie. Anyway, I think there's some inherent upside with Love if Watson comes back. I know he's on a snap count, but just contributes more than we expect. Aaron Jones is a dynamic weapon. So I think there is some room for these efficiency metrics to rise with Love. And then I can fall back on his rushing ability, which he's already displayed. He's one of my favorite captains for that reason. He's the only quarterback on the slate that I think is truly live to like punch in a touchdown with his legs. So I plan on using more of him compared to Goff at the captain spot.
I like that. It feels like there's a higher ceiling. Feels like it. I don't know. If Jair Alexander is officially out, have you seen any confirmation there one way or another?
Pelissero said he's not expected to play. I don't know.
Okay.
Take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, right. Then Goff looks even better. I like both of them, but they're both getting pretty much the same ownership everywhere. They look so similar. The only difference is Jared Goff is more expensive. How are you pairing Jordan Love? Are you fine going with, a bunch of these pass catchers? Because Aaron Jones is expected back. Christian Watson's expected to play. So now you look through this team and you go, as I mentioned earlier as well, you've already got a very flat distribution of targets, right? From Jaden Reed to Romeo Doubs. Even Wicks had been pulling like 15 or 13%. Luke Musgrave at 16%, Dobbs at 21, Reed at 21. Jones is probably going to command a decent amount in any game that he plays. What's the play here? What's the process here with all of these players?
My priority is probably going to be Musgrave 1. I think he's the only player just completely unaffected by the return of Watson playing a different position. So he's at a great target share to begin with. They've missed him on a couple awesome plays, like streaking down the middle of the field against New Orleans. Love slightly overthrows him. If this role persists, which I think is going to persist, Musgrave is going to have some enormous games this year. And with a flat target share, I think that only works in his favor too. My number 2 price adjusted would be Jaden Reed. This is just a price play. He's 5,600. Dobbs is 88. So, I'm not paying 8,800 for Dobbs with Watson back. And Watson's snap count, I think, largely affects Wicks more than anyone else. So right away, I think your preferred 3 receiver sets are going to be Reed, Dobbs, Watson. When Watson comes off the field for a snap count, I think that brings Wicks on. Then you look at the 2 full-time receivers price adjusted, 8,800 for Dobbs, 5,600 for Reed. I'll just play Reed as the cheaper guy, opening some salary to get some studs here. So to rank them, 1 would be Musgrave, 2 Reed, 3 I'll go Dobbs, 4 Watson, 5 Wicks.
Not to say that on a 1-game slate he can't get it done, but Dobbs feels like the odd man out at this price point with Watson back.
He's so expensive.
Yeah. He's egregiously expensive given the situation. Given the fact that he has the same target share as Jaden Reed on the season, and Jaden Reed is more than $3,000 cheaper than him in the flex.
Yeah, it's wild to me. And I know Reed did not have a good game last week. He dropped a lot of passes, but he also caught some big ones when it mattered. And he's a high draft pick, second rounder. They're going to play him.
Where did you say you rank Watson?
I would rank him, what did I say? 4th behind Dobbs.
Okay. And Reed 1?
Yeah. If we include Musgrave, I would put Musgrave 1, but just for receivers,
okay,
I would put Reed number 1 or 2, depending if you want to include Musgrave.
Yeah, well, we can, because it's not like you have to play any individual positions.
Yeah, I like Musgrave a lot.
Yeah. Do you like Musgrave better than Laporta today, given their price points?
They're fairly close. I would still rather play Laporta, but you do save a little more with Musgrave, I suppose. I'm going to say Laporta still.
What about AJ Dillon?
I hate AJ Dillon. I'm probably going to X him.
Yeah.
So aside from him being terrible, like he was already splitting work with Patrick Taylor, and Patrick Taylor outplayed him. If Green Bay's rational, he should get snaps over AJ Dillon. I think that's actually a possibility here.
How about the kicker position here, where we're talking about, you already mentioned it on the Detroit side. And if there's anything you think I missed on Green Bay, feel free to let me know. But Anders Carlson, him and Riley Patterson are both getting around 20% utility ownership, 2-3% at captain. Maybe this does end up being a weird low scoring game. It's entirely possible. But I actually really like kickers in this game.
100% agree. I think there's avenues to it being low scoring. I think both defenses are pretty strong. Detroit's in particular has matchup advantages. And in those environments, kickers are solid. The other thing is, I mean, you're debating between Khalif Raymond and kickers. You're debating between like Patrick Taylor. Like for as much as I like him compared to AJ Dillon, there's a very real chance he's just straight up either inactive or the RB3 here. He's 3K. Like Carlson's 46. This is a very easy jump to make. I would way rather play a kicker or a defense over a third string running back. Craig Reynolds is 2,800. Marvin Jones is 2K. Like the gap between the kickers and these players is not wide enough for me to consider these like third string players.
How much of the how much of these super cheap there's not a lot down here as far as super cheap goes, especially given that Jones is expected back, that Montgomery's expected to play. So you mentioned Craig Reynolds. Sure, maybe he touches the ball once or twice. Wilson is down there at 14. Marvin Jones is 2K, as you mentioned. Zonovan Knight's not going to probably even
he's
be
not
active.
Going to be active.
Yeah, he's not going to be active. Patrick Taylor. I literally just sorted by salaries in our top plays tool to see some of these guys as far as like what we're getting at. Usually there's at least one or two guys that you and I can agree on as, hey, maybe there's a shot. But at this point, it's like Toure or DeGuara hopefully getting one or two targets and one of them being a touchdown.
Really thin, not a range I'm going to be playing much of. The players I think you need to at least know if you're playing the Millie Maker are Brock Wright, 29 snaps, mainly a run blocker here. Of his 29 snaps, he spent 23 blocking last week against Atlanta, so he played more because it was a weird game. Antoine Green, again, 14 snaps, I think largely because they were beating Atlanta. 6 routes, it was the same amount as a guy like Brock Wright. Millie Maker play. On the Green Bay side, DeGuara played 17 snaps. 4 of those were routes. So again, mainly a blocker. He's kind of like an H-back. I don't have a ton of interest there. Tucker Kraft will play a little bit, 6 routes for him. These players are so thin. And guys like Samori Toure and Malik Heath, I think, are put off the field by the return of Christian Watson. So like a Samori Toure had 33 snaps last week. What do we think he comes in at with Watson back in a rotational role? Probably pretty low. I don't know. Really thin. I don't anticipate getting a lot of these guys. Instead, I plan on playing mainly kickers and defenses.
I like it. I like your thought process there. Once you get further, weird stuff can happen, sure. But once you get that far down, there's not a lot there. Travis Long with a $20 super chat. Thank you, Travis. You're the man. Good morning, Jets. Hit 5,500 on Monday's double slate. Awesome. $3.20 max. That's a tough one to win. Most in one hit from 7 years playing for me. All to your guys' breakdown. That's awesome, Matt. I mean, take some credit yourself, obviously, but that is really great to see, Matt. That $5,500 win.
Yeah, congratulations. And definitely take some credit yourself. I broke down the slate with Lofty. I didn't win 5.5.
I was going to say, me neither. Didn't have enough Zacchaeus. But appreciate the support, man. Appreciate all you guys hanging out with us. We get, we go north of 600 watching on a Thursday morning at 9 a.m. A lot earlier for some of you guys. So that's pretty cool. We're at 150 thumbs up on this video. Man, you're a simple man. I love it. Just drinking water straight out of the glass. I bet it's tap water.
It's tap water, yeah.
I have a feeling. I like it, man. You're a true minimalist here. If you guys didn't know, Matt has a green screen set up, but he's actually recording under a bridge.
Pretty close, man.
No, I'm just joking. Well, the setup that you had before was the best, where it was like, this is years ago, but it was the TV on the microwave, right?
Oh, dude, I only moved out of that place in May. I lived there for 3 years. It was 300 square feet.
It's the best. But I love it because you were happy. You know what I mean? Like you did. I wish I could be. I wish I think you should be able to go out and get whatever the hell you want. You want to live a life of luxury, go for it. But I respect somebody who can be like, hey, I'm good. I can hit the toilet from my bed.
Pretty close. It was pretty close, dude.
Any other thoughts before we build a lineup and get out of here for the day?
Be very cognizant of salary. Really, really important today, especially if you're using tools. And I highly recommend using our simulation tools. I think these are great slates for it when your differences between players are going to be enormous today, especially depending on your field size. Things like the Millie Maker, you might be getting weird stuff in your lineups that you don't normally consider. So yeah, I would just say that as a last thought.
I would say this is the tightest pricing we've had for a showdown slate all season by far, thus far.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
By far.
Oh, here's a new one. Scoot Knight said cutting grass at the cemetery listening to the show. Hey, we welcome everyone here, man.
Sounds peaceful.
Kind of does. Nice morning. Hopefully some, brisk weather. It's a good feeling. All right. Let's get into a lineup build. And by the way, like I said, guys, with Owner's Box, or if you just want to check out all of our tools, links in the description to everything. The Sims Max package, monthly Sims data package, which is the same thing. You just can't generate as many lineups in the contest generator that go into the sim. If you ever have any questions about that, hit us up. We're happy to walk you through any of this. We have so many tutorial videos on how to exploit these tools, but we have so many tools on the site. The lineup generator itself is a massive discount on everything else. It's the best price you're going to get on any tool if you're a budget player working with a small bankroll, or you just don't have a lot of time. So check the links out down there. If you're just curious on any of these, some really good spots, and you don't need any add-ons, no additional tools, nothing. Once you get those single packages. So if you're looking to change the game, up it, build better lineups, and get that help doing so with the best tools in the business, all the stuff is down there. You'll see all the links. And like I said, my DMs are always open on Twitter if you have questions. All right, so let's build a lineup. I went first last time. I'll throw this one off to you. Where are we captaining?
I'm going to go Musgrave in the captain. Save us some salary, and it might not seem like it, but I think it's going to go a long ways here.
I think so too. I'm going to go Jordan Love here.
Love Jordan Love completes a little mini stack for us. I think on the Detroit side is where we really want to consider what we want to do here. I don't love the backfield now that we have Montgomery, so I'm going to take the locked-in target share of Laporta and keep us live to get some other studs. It's going to matter a lot.
Coco, no, we don't, because Josh is coming up on the MLB show. But next time, I promise on Monday we'll hit you with one of those. All right. Who did you go with? Laporta?
Yes, sir.
All right. Maybe this just ends up being a St. Brown fade lineup.
You can fade St. Brown, I think. And it's not even I hate St. Brown or something like that. You just can't play all the studs.
Right. Right. This is one lineup. This isn't every lineup that we're playing.
Yes.
I'm going to throw. Yo, you know what? I'm going to tweak this a little bit. I'm going to throw Montgomery in here.
That'll save us some salary. We didn't talk a lot about him individually, but we know he's always live to score touchdowns.
These builds are kind of fun for me, though. What if Laporta has a nice game? None of the other pass catchers really stand out, but Montgomery vultures 2 touchdowns, and Jared Goff isn't in the optimal.
Yeah, you can see that without a doubt, especially with pricing being so tight. I'm going to close out my picks with a kicker. I'll play Carlson, give you a little extra salary to work with here, but I would just much rather do this than any of the cheap options, and that should put us in a pretty decent spot, I think, to finish.
He's what, 4,600?
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. We could go Goff here. You could go Aaron Jones.
Ooh.
The Aaron Jones, Jordan Love, Musgrave build is kind of fun.
I love that build.
Me too. Me too. This is probably more of like a single entry or smaller field, I should say.
Yes.
But I like that. I'll tell you what, dude. No, we don't have St. Brown or Goff, but you look at that lineup, there's some good players in that lineup. Some really good players. We didn't have to go all the way to the bottom, to the cellar.
It might be more contrarian than we think, too. Musgrave's the captain. How many people are going to click Montgomery?
True. Yeah, Montgomery with Jones in there, without Jared Goff in there either.
It might be more contrarian than we think.
I like it.
I like it, too. I'm probably going to play it.
I was thinking the same thing.
Stay
away, guys. Lineup. Get your hands off. We did have one lineup last year that almost won everything. It was like a fraction of, and I did play it as well. We haven't gotten there yet. I'm still waiting for the day. But appreciate you guys watching. Fun show as always. Tackling things early on a Thursday morning. Follow Matt on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call. I might be giving up on X. I fucking hate saying that. Follow Matt at Matt_Gajewski. His name's right there. It's a tough one to spell. Me at Laffy_D. It's LOUGHY_D as well. Come hang out, say hello. We'll see you back here tonight, live before lock. Stick around right here on the Stochastic channel because Josh Ingeman coming up. MLB Strategy Show. MLB ain't over yet, baby, and Josh is taking you up to the end of the season. Thanks, guys. Peace.